All right, welcome to the newest episode of the New Year's Six podcast. Today I'll be kicking off my Week 1, game previews. Just taking the top 5 games of Week 1, giving them a little bit more of an in-depth analysis than I did in the Week 1 preview video. So there's 5 games this week that are going to get their own independent look. We're going to cover keys to victory, what I want to see from these teams. And we'll do a final prediction, score, everything like that. So today I'll be doing Nebraska at Minnesota. One of the Thursday night kickoffs, the other one being Florida at Utah. I'll be doing that one immediately after this one, but it's getting its own separate video. So we'll do Nebraska at Minnesota tonight. Now, obviously, tale of two different teams last year. Nebraska, fired Scott Frost. The Matt Rhule era is alive and well in Nebraska. His first game, Minnesota, more of the model of consistency in the conference. PJ Fleck always doing more than he can with what's available out there, and they're going to kick us off right for the Big Ten this year. So I'm going to start with Nebraska. So keys to the game for Nebraska. Here we go. From a roster standpoint, I'm very interested to see how Jeff Sims adjusts to his new campus and adjusts to his new team. So Jeff Sims comes up from Georgia Tech, transferred out after their coach got fired last year, looking for a new home, looking for a new place to develop, and we'll see if that's going to be the case in Nebraska. He has the opportunity to thrive, he has the opportunity to play, and I think his performance in this game is going to be, pretty crucial in determining if Nebraska walks away with a win or not. It's going to be a close one, I think, across the board. Closest in, within 1 to 2 scores. But the way that I'm looking at it, Nebraska and Minnesota is going to be competitive, and the play of Jeff Sims in general is going to be one of those deciding factors. Obviously, quarterback, the most important position in the game, and if Sims does not rise to the occasion, if he doesn't live up to those expectations, Nebraska is going to be in for a long, long day because this Minnesota defense does not play around. But if Jeff Sims opens up the playbook a little bit, it is spread option. If they need to run it a little bit more, because Jeff Sims can run, so got to give him credit there. But just want to see what he looks like in this new offense. There's so many transfers going in and out of the portal, finding new homes, trying to make the most of this season. Jeff Sims is one of those guys. Is he going to be a Sam Hartman type, a Bo Nix type, a Michael Penix type, or is he going to be a Tate Martell type? Time will tell. But the way that I'm looking at it, his play is going to be a crucial factor if Nebraska is going to steal this one from Minnesota. Looking back at last year and looking at what Nebraska did well, and no shade to Cornhusker fans, they didn't do a whole lot well. But looking at just last year's stats real quick, their best area was their lack of penalties. So they ranked 29th in the country in penalties, nationally. Having that discipline is a very good start. If you're a bad team and you're undisciplined, then I think there's so much that needs to be built upon. But having that initial discipline, having that initial ability to pause and not shoot yourself in the foot, sounds like they were just getting outskilled and outcoached. So you get a new coach, and the skill kind of comes along with it eventually. These other categories are going to fix themselves. So if Nebraska is going to beat Minnesota, do not give them anything for free. Don't hold on the O-line. Don't get defensive pass interference. Things like that are just going to give Minnesota extra opportunities. Minnesota is the favorite. I'm not going to get into the score right now, but in that case, Nebraska has kind of that underdog mentality, and they're going to have to get above this quickly. And again, just making sure that you do not give Minnesota an inch, that anything that they get, they earn. So don't false start, don't hold, don't go off sides, don't do the stupid things that are going to move the ball for Minnesota. And for the most part, they were pretty good at that last year, regardless of who they were playing. So if Minnesota can do that again, and they can do it against a quality opponent, or Nebraska can do it again against a quality opponent in Minnesota, the game may be tighter than what people are saying it is. In terms of where Nebraska struggled last year, and again, there's many, many things that they struggled with. Time of possession was bad. It was 124th in the country out of 131 teams. This is supposed to be a football powerhouse. They sell out that stadium week after week after week after week, regardless of how good this team is. So the way that I'm looking at it, if you can't keep the ball in offense's hand, it makes it a lot harder on the defense. And seeing some of these numbers, I think I understand why this season fell apart last year. So get that time of possession in your favor. Maybe the clock rules help Nebraska in a sense. I didn't see much of an impact of the new clock rules last week. There were only a handful less plays, so it doesn't feel like it's going to make a ton of difference. But the way I'm looking at it is Nebraska just needs to keep the ball in their offense's hand. They need to get their defense off the field, get them juiced up, ready to go. And take those long drives, take those 70, 80-yard drives, and score on what Nebraska gives you. If you're going to do this 3-and-out game over and over and over again, you're not going to beat Minnesota, and you're not going to beat anyone of value. So if Nebraska learns how to run their offense properly, if their defense can get the key stops, get those 3-and-outs that are needed, Nebraska will have that favor in time of possession. It's really going to depend. Maybe it means increasing the running game a little bit more. We'll figure out what that actually looks like in terms of execution. But Nebraska needs to hold on to the ball. They cannot get these 3-and-outs. They cannot. They can't beat themselves. If offensively they get stopped, the defense is going to have to make a stop in the same amount of time. But if you're out there and you're just you're playing poor offense and the defense just get drummed on, and you go out there and play more poor offense, which is kind of the tale of what happened last year. So Nebraska's got to get it together on that front. They really got to tighten up that time of possession, get some long drives going in this game. I know Minnesota is not a week one cupcake like a lot of these other schools are playing, but there is time for both teams to kind of learn and adjust. So that's why I just want to see out of Nebraska, just how's Jeff Sim looking from QB perspective, keep those penalties low, and then establish some sort of time of possession rhythm. Find a way to keep the ball in your hands by any means necessary. Flipping over to Minnesota now. So Minnesota, again, kind of the model of consistency in the Big Ten. Never necessarily a super contender, but I can't tell you the last time Minnesota's had a bad season. So what I want to see from Minnesota here, from a player perspective, there's quite a few new faces on the secondary. So ultimately it's a pretty senior secondary as a whole, but the guys I'm looking at in particular, Trevon Jones comes in from Elon, so not a whole lot to learn about, or not a whole lot of film on him, at least at the FBS level. Jack Henderson comes in from Southeast Louisiana. So there's all these guys in the secondary that we don't know a whole lot about, that we've never really seen. So from that angle, I want to see how these guys deliver. This is their final year. This is they're coming in. Using their last year of eligibility, coming into a defense that last year was one of the best in the country. So from that angle and from that perspective, if they can come in and be those immediate contributors, Minnesota's not going to lose a step, and I think that's crucial for this team to continue to excel if they do want to compete for a Big Ten West spot in the Big Ten championship. Then these new guys are going to have to adjust on the fly. It's a passing defense last year that was 15th in all of college football. I don't think you bring these guys in to start if they're not able to at least get you back to that 15th rank, if not better. So that's the way I look at it. It was a stacked defense last year from top to bottom, but I want to see what these new kids do. I want to see what they can do in a big-time environment. Fortunately, it's a home game for them at first. They get to see what the crowd's about, but that's the way I'm looking at it. I want to see what they can do in a hostile road environment. I want to see what they can do, when they're facing some of the better opponents in their conference. But for right now, they just got to look Nebraska down the eye and beat them that way. So let's see what the new kids can do. All right. So in terms of what Minnesota did well last year that I want to see them do again against Nebraska this year, is we're going to copy and paste Nebraska. Yeah, if Nebraska was 29th in penalties last year, Minnesota was the best team in terms of on-field discipline. They were the least penalized team in all of college football. That's astounding. And again, for a team that won 8 games last year, something like that, they weren't a slouch. They were out there playing the type of football they needed to play. They played to their skill set and they did it correctly. If they can continue to be the number one least penalized team in the country, they have a bright future ahead of them this year. And if they can do it against Nebraska, who's again they got some momentum on, they got a new head coach, they got some hype around the program right now. It's the most energized the program has been in quite some time, and I mean the expectations this year for Nebraska are fairly pedestrian, but they were so bad under Scott Frost that now they get a chance to potentially be good. The program's buzzing, so Minnesota just got to have to calm down. Don't give Nebraska an inch. Don't give them anything for free. I know that's a lot of, you're going to hear a lot of the same things that I talked about for Nebraska, but the point still stands. Just play your game. Don't do anything stupid. Just find a way to drive the ball down the field and score. Get the stops when you need to, and again, don't give them anything that they didn't earn. So that's what I think. Minnesota did really well last year. That's what I want to see them do again really well this year, and really against Nebraska is that first test. But where they struggled last year, and what I want to see improvement on against Nebraska, and this is that chance to do that, is we got to open up the passing game a little bit. I know this is a run-first team. They were 16th in rushing attack last year, and when you have Mo Ibrahim, you play to your strengths, so that's the case. But they were 116th in the passing offense last year. So all I'm asking for is divide the playbook up a little bit. Show us what those receivers got. Show us what your new QB is doing. Ethan Kalakmanis. I'm gonna have to find out how to say that name for you, Kalakmanis. But give him a chance to throw. Give it you got a lot of seniors out there. Daniel Jackson, Chris Autumn-Bell, Corey Crooms. You got players that can make plays. They just don't get a whole lot of opportunities to make plays. So if you're gonna be run first, so be it. But I think Nebraska is going to expect you to be run first. So I think your way around it is open up the playbook a little bit, test those DBs, to see what they're about, see what they can bring to the table. Because Nebraska's passing defense last year was, pretty. It was solid enough. It was 68th in the country. So attack it. Figure out what they did well and get around it. So that's why I'm looking at for Minnesota. Just, how are these DBs going to look? Stay disciplined, and then open up that passing attack however you can. Maybe it's trick plays. Maybe it's, wildcat and you end up throwing it. I don't have the specifics, but if you are going to beat Nebraska, you cannot, this cannot be Notre Dame Navy. And what I mean by that, and I'm not comparing either of these teams to Navy or Notre Dame. That is an insult to both. But when Notre Dame's playing Navy, you just load the box with 7, probably more, probably 8. Then you keep a few guys back just in case, and then you just spy the quarterback and follow the ball and you make plays. And Notre Dame's defense looked good as a result of that. If Nebraska knows it's going to be the same case against Minnesota, theoretically they could just run their defense that way. Now, I don't think it's going to end the same result for Nebraska because Minnesota is way more talented than Navy is, and Nebraska is not as talented as Notre Dame is. But the concept still stands. If Minnesota can open it up, pass it downfield, and keep Nebraska on their toes, Minnesota will pull away with this one. So, all right, so that takes us to my actual prediction now. So what's this game going to end up looking like? Minnesota is the favorite. They are favored by 7 points, so a pretty close game. And the total is 43.5. I am going to take Minnesota to win. I'm going to take Minnesota to cover on the 7, and I'm going to take the over on 43.5. So I think it's going to be low scoring. I agree that it's going to be low scoring. I'm going to go Minnesota 28, Nebraska 18. Again, it's a model prediction. I know 18 is not a nice football number, but I think Nebraska wins by 10. So a little bit more than that 7, not a big deal, but a fairly comfortable win for Minnesota. But it's at the same time, it's kind of a good challenge. One that they kind of take into the fourth quarter until they kind of pull away with it. Nebraska shows that they do have a little bit of life in this program by going, pretty competitively with a very good Minnesota team, or at least a pretty good Minnesota team for 4 quarters. And the Matt Rhule era at Nebraska does not start with a win, but I think that all Nebraska fans will walk away from this game at least feeling somewhat confident of what lies ahead. So that is my final prediction for Nebraska and Minnesota. Who do you think is going to win? What are your keys to the game? What do you think is going to happen? So tune in next time for Florida at Utah. This is the game I'm really looking forward to this week. Can't wait to cover that. Going to do that and get ready for Thursday night for both those. So thank you all for watching. Tune in next time, and we will we'll be in touch soon.